that are going after it in spite of whatever obstacles, they may face. It's so important for me. And so I get really emotional and passionate about, yes, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. Like, we get a bad reputation. Nobody wants to come to the South Side and all these things. But there's so much richness and history and character that makes, when people hear me do what I do, little do they know that there's a lot of pain and a lot of that kind of shaped that. Like, it's not a formula, it's an experience that was shaped by my community, by my city, by my culture. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to be a Black woman. I'm very proud to be from the South Side. And, I also believe that, and it's not easy, but God has called me to be a bridge builder, meaning, I've done music in spaces that were a little uncomfortable for me, whether it be a room full of older white businessmen who, may come in with a little bit of like bias or, whatever. And, after I get done singing, it's something so powerful about hearing someone like that say to you, wow, your music really broke my heart for, the least of these. And I realized that I've been abusing my privilege and I want to use it to better the world. And so, like, that's also, a big part of, I think, why God called me to Willow Creek, which is a huge church right outside of Chicago, a huge predominantly white church. And, I struggle because it's like, man, this isn't my comfort zone. But I realized that part of what I'm supposed to do as an artist is to build bridges. And I think music is a great, not just great, it's a powerful tool in terms of building bridges and bringing people together. I mean, every era of society has been marked by music, the 60s, the 70s, so much great music. And I think that we've got great music coming out of this era, out of the struggle that we're experiencing now and all of the catastrophes happening in the world. Like, artists, it's our job to tell the truth, as Nina Simone said, to reflect the times. And so that's what I want to do. And I have an assignment, and I take it very seriously, and I have fun with it. But it's not just a hobby. It's definitely an assignment for me and a purpose. And I'm excited for this upcoming album that I have labored over. And I know I will get to play some of the songs. I'm really grateful for that, to be able to share my music. Like Erykah Badu said, I'm an artist, so I'm sensitive about my about my so I hope people connect with it. But these songs are 13 original songs. Honestly, I don't know how I wrote them. Like, I don't even remember writing them. It's like out of body process, and I don't know if other artists out there listening can relate, where you just feel like it's like a muse. So that's kind of my the snapshot, I guess, of where it all began on the South Side, and out of just hopefully will encourage someone listening, a young girl or a young man out there who feels like their broken home or their situation limits them from achieving. But in fact, that's where the good stuff is. There's a message in your mess. There's a purpose in your pain, and I really believe that the good stuff comes out of those struggles. So don't be discouraged if you go to a school that's not the best, or or your parents split up and you feel like you don't have that stable home. I would not trade my experience for the world, and I hope that I can do better, if I ever have kids. But I definitely think that the music for me started off just as an escape, as a therapy, and then turned into a purpose-filled mission. So I had to, what I mean? Like, it healed me in those private times of like making up songs, and then I guess I realized, okay, how can I use this to better the world and not just like, be a a therapy for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a listener tuning in the chat room here. It says her name is Shakia Danielle. She says, "Yes, purpose in your pain." Wow. So
Yes,
she is feeling it. So thank you for
that's
tuning
my
in.
girl.
Hey, girl.
Hey.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit then, because I want to get into some of your music here. So speaking of your songwriting, tell us a little bit about All We're Living For. We'll play that first.
Yes. Okay, cool. So that song, a couple things about that. It is, where do I start with that? It's probably, and this is me being a music nerd person, the poppiest song on the album. Like it's weird because it's very soulful to me, and it's kind of deep, but it's this pop sort of melody.
Mm-hmm.
But what inspired it was there was a young lady here in Chicago a few years back, and I don't know if you remember, I believe her name was Hadaya. She had been gunned
Yes.
down and she was on her way to college, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you hear stories like that all the time when you live in Chicago, and it's unfortunate, but you get numb and you get used to it. But I just, something struck me about her story, and I just was fed up, and I began to ask the question in my just prayer time, God, there's got to be more to life. Is this all we're living for? You know, I remember the days that we could go outside and play, and I remember, you know, and it doesn't really resolve. Like, I don't have the answers, but I think just asking the question, and also it kind of gets at this idea that we are a part of a larger story, that we are called to be agents of change, and that there is more of this life than, you know, the brokenness. And no matter where you live, in the suburbs or in the city, it's important to step outside of your comfort zone and outside of your box and challenge yourself, you know, to rise up and respond to whatever it is that, you know, you might be feeling called to respond to in the world. So I guess that's a little, I don't know, it's weird. I write a song, and then I don't really know how people are going to interpret it, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but
Yeah, and it's funny how God works, because actually an earlier guest this season on the show, DJ Joe College, Hadia was his cousin, actually.
wow,
Yeah, so
wow,
I hope he's tuned
wow.
in. If he's not tuned in, I'm gonna
I
make sure
hope
he
so.
listens to the playback, and so he can
Yes,
definitely check this song out. But yeah, that was his
yes,
cousin. So
wow.
rest in peace, Hadia,
Still,
and of course, love and light to her family that was left
amen.
to deal with that loss. So
Wow. Yes,
let's get into All We're Living For then, and we'll play that, and then we'll come back and we'll keep the party going. So
yes.
this is All We're Living For by our guest Sharon Irving. We'll be right back after this.
Check it out.
Here we go again, heads down, no grins, nowhere out of sight, blowing in the wind, blowing in the wind. Steeple silence, people violent, egos trying to be right, can't see eye to eye, oh God. Is this all? Rain is falling, daily dodging bullets. I remember when we used to go play please understand it. I'm afraid won't look back. Hey, hey. Holding on, take my hand. All of me, please understand it. I'm afraid won't look back. Hey, hey, hey. Is this all we're living for? All we're living for? Oh, there must be. Is this all we're living for? All we're living for? Oh, there must be more. Whoa. Is this all we're living for? All we're living for? Oh, there must be more. There must be more. Whoa. Is this all we're living for? Is this all we're living for? Oh, there must be more. Is this all we're living for? All we're living for? Oh, there must be more.
You're listening to Support the Dope Radio, and that was All We're Living For by tonight's guest, Sharon Irving. Such a powerful song. Thank you so much for making that song, Sharon, because I think we all have to ask ourselves that at some point, what am I getting up in the morning for? Right? Like, why am I going to
Yep.
this place of work? Or, why am I continuing to fight for this relationship? Or,
Yes.
why am I going through this struggle right now? Like, why me? At some point, we all get to that point where we're all like, what is this for? It's got to be greater than me, bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for that. Hope you guys, are enjoying that because we have Sharon for a whole nother half an hour.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some of your musical influences. Like, who are you listening to, or who did you grow up listening to that has kind of helped to shape the type of artist you've become?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a hard.
Thank you. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
Yes. That's that's good. I guess I'll take it back to just the beginning influences, and this should come to no surprise to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Lauryn Hill is one of my biggest influences ever, and she was one of the first women that I ever heard, spit and rap, and so hearing her just gave me that permission, to do that. And as for women, it's hard coming out and stepping out. You got to really bring it because people are critical, and she just did it with such authenticity and didn't care what you thought, and just told her story. And so I was really she gave us the one Miseducation, and then we got Unplugged. But they're both classics, and if she never did anything else, I feel like we have classics. And so definitely Lauryn Hill, but I'm all over the map. I really, as I said, my dad's a jazz musician, so I grew up around a lot of jazz. Miles Davis, just love listening to that. Kind of takes me outside the box, and if I'm ever feeling stuck or in a rut, and this is just a tip for other artists and writers, just turn on some jazz. I believe, and I'm going to totally butcher this, but they banned jazz. I think it was banned during a certain era because it was making people think, and it was an intellectually stimulating form of music. And so I think that's pretty cool that music can inspire you to just think outside the box. And then, just some of the classics, the Beatles. Now I'm listening to things everybody else listens to. I'm not one of these, I don't listen to, if I'm writing my own music, I'll kind of stay